Okay, I'm back. I'm trying to find the right place to look so that when I'm looking on the screen, I'm looking at you. And I was told to look at the camera, but that makes it look like I'm not looking at you. So bear with me, because I am trying. So while we were at Burger King, I asked Weston, which was his name, young man's name, he's 23, you know, did he have family? Could I take him to his family? And he told me that his mother lived somewhere, 290, and she was a makeup artist. She worked at home, and I said, okay, well, you know, I could take you there. And he says, no, he had talked to her on Sunday when he got to Houston, found out that he's been to Houston, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, and recently Austin, and he'd come here to Houston, but has lived here in Houston before, and he has graduated high school. And so he said no, he had talked to her, and she said, you can't stay here, you can't live here, I don't have any place for you. Okay, you know, what about your father? Hadn't seen him in years. Did you have any relatives, other relatives, any siblings? He said, well, he was the oldest of three, and he's 23, his 20-year-old brother had lived at Star of Hope. Well, Star of Hope is a very well-known shelter in Houston, and I guess they have some transitional housing. And you know, they've got a pretty vigorous program to help people. And so he said, maybe that would be good. Maybe we could go to Star of Hope. And I was thinking, okay, well, I do know about Star of Hope, kind of like vaguely. I know the name, and I know it's downtown. So I'll take you to Star of Hope if that's what you want. He said, yes, that would be good. And he said that he also knew about Covenant House. Did I know about Covenant House? Well, I did know about Covenant House because back in the Bentwater days, I had contacted Covenant House about making some quilts for them. And they are a transitional housing, educational resource for teens, well, for 18 to 24-year-olds who are on their own, facing some difficulties, need some help. And since he was 23, he said, I think I could probably get in there again, and he had lived there previously. So that was a familiar place to him. But first he thought he'd want to try Star of Hope. So I said, okay, I can take you downtown. I said, I think you would be better off downtown because there really isn't a shelter around here, and it's not really smart for you to be sleeping on this divider in the middle of this 4-lane highway in the heat. You know, I said, how long have you been, I asked him, how long have you been out here? And he said, well, since Sunday, and today's Saturday, so that's like 6 days. 6 days. 6 days he's been out on that divider on a very busy highway that a lot of people traverse, and nobody has stopped. Nobody has stopped to offer him any aid at all. And I'm here to tell you, that breaks my heart. That breaks my heart wide open, that nobody had any compassion that they could stop and ask this young man, hey, do you need help? He told me that he had gone across to the Starbucks, and that the young lady who opened in the mornings had given him some biscuits that have an egg in it, and so he'd had that, and he'd had some things to drink. And I said, well, you know, you could have slept near the Starbucks. I mean, why did you sleep in the middle of the street? And you know, did I tell you that he was hearing impaired? Okay, so he's hearing impaired, and so I don't know how much of it he got, the message he got, you know, how much he heard me, and when he did hear me, he was listening to me. So anyway, we headed downtown. I got some gas. We headed downtown, and I said to him, you know, this would have been a long walk. You know, it was a long drive. I can't even imagine. I don't even think he had a plan. So we finally found Star of Hope. And of course, this is Saturday, and they were closed. They do have receiving time from 2 to 4, and I guess you can go in and get a shower, and maybe they have food. I don't know. But here's the deal. They will only accept you if you have identification, like a driver's license, your social security card. Homeless people, that's something they don't have. I talked to another young man last year, and I said, listen, you look capable. Why are you out here on the corner? And he said, well, I don't have my ID papers. And he says, I can't get a job without my ID papers. I said, well, what would it take for you to get your ID? And he said, well, I'm from Louisiana, and I don't remember what my social security number is, and, you know, on and on and on. Can't get to a computer, you know. I'm thinking, I get it. I mean, I do get it. It's difficult as a person who owns a computer, who lives in a house and has to get a name change, or, you know, you got to get your car title changed. I mean, all of that stuff is just shitty stuff you have to do. And to not even know where you're going to live that night, where you're going to sleep, if you've had any food that day, I mean, it's difficult. I mean, I can't even imagine. So anyway, we get down to Star of Hope, and there's another man sitting there. There's like up the block are the camps, and there are a lot of men, maybe some women. I didn't see very many women, but a lot of men, and they are, you know, talking amongst themselves, and they've set up their tents, and, you know, it's kind of homeless land. And but I figured even if he was there, he's with people who have knowledge that I don't have. And so I asked him, I says, do you want me to drop you off here? And he goes, no, I don't know these people. Okay, so where do you want me to take you? I want you to take me to Star of Hope. Okay, so we went down the street, you know, when we got there, and of course it was closed. And but there was a man sitting in the parking lot, and he was clean and presentable. And I said, okay, why don't we go over and talk to him and ask him what information he knows? So we did, and he told us about the 2 to 4, where you could go. He could go in, but he says you have to have an ID. They're not going to let you in without an ID. So that's when Weston said, well, I think my brother lives here. And he says, well, that's great. Maybe he can vouch for you. And I said, okay, but when was the last time you talked to your brother? And he said, oh, well, about a month ago. I said, are you sure he's here? He says, well, I don't know. I don't know where he is, really. I was like, well, that's kind of not a lot of help. And I said, so do you want me to leave you here? What do you want to do? And so he said, I want you to take me to Covenant House. I said, okay, we'll go to Covenant House. That's the last place I'm going to be able to take you. I had to go by there basically anyway to get home, so it wasn't like I was going further away. I was just going in another direction. So we got in the car and we headed out to Covenant House. And when we got there, we found it. There were some young adults out in the front, and he kind of sparked up. He said, yeah, this is Covenant House. I know Covenant House. I used to work around here. And I didn't press him on the kind of work he was doing, but I have a feeling it wasn't reputable work, if you know what I mean. He did tell me how he contracted the AIDS, and I think he was in a situation where he was taken advantage of. And I can see how that might be, because he a little timid, but So we pulled up to Covenant House, and their receiving time is from 3 to 10. And I think I don't know a lot about Covenant House, but I plan to learn more about it. But basically they offer a bed at night, and they try to keep these young adults, I guess, off the street. And maybe they help them with some other resources. So he kind of perked up, and he said, yeah, this is Covenant House. I used to work around here. I said, okay, well, that's good. Here's some people already kind of gathering. It was 2 o'clock. So I thought, well, maybe he'd have, an opportunity to talk to some other people. So he turned to me and he said, are you going to go up with me? And I said, no. Receiving is at 3, it's 2. You'll have to do that on your own. And it was so difficult for me. It was just, it was just all kinds of shades of, here's a person who really, he really needed help, and I felt like I did help him. Like, I got him closer to a resource than he was before. But, he says, well, I don't hear very well, and I don't want to miss anything. And yeah, I said, oh, I understand. And I said, but, so I said, well, I don't know what else I said. So I said, well, let's get your luggage. And so he got out, we got the luggage, in the back of the SUV, and he just looked at me, and I just looked at him, and it was almost like sending your kid off to college or kindergarten, but he wasn't going to those places, and he wasn't my kid, and I didn't know him, but I just gave him a really big, warm, loving hug, and I said, I'll pray for you, which I will. And he hugged me back, and he slowly walked up to the door. So as I got in the car, and I opened the window, and I waved to him, and he waved back, and I drove off. So I'm a Christian, and you hear those crappy little slogans, what would Jesus do? And, that's what Jesus would do. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to rescue a 23-year-old kid off of the street and take him to a shelter. That's what you're supposed to do. And that's what I did today. And I hope you'll add Weston to your prayer list. Ask for safety for him, and he won't be taken advantage of, and that he will figure out what he needs to do to move forward. And that's what happened today. On Saturday, outside of my studio, out there in the real world. It's easy for us to look at Facebook and say, hey, this is what people ought to do, and somebody needs to do that. And, well, today I was that somebody, and I wish I felt better about it, and maybe I will tomorrow, but, oh gosh, so many obstacles. 3 months without his medicine. He ran out of his medicine, and so, Lord, be with all of us. Be with Weston. Help us to walk the walk and talk the talk, and help us to all be Christians and open our hearts, because there's always somebody who needs our love. Amen.